My journey as a physiotherapist has been a very rewarding one, a life of great professional satisfaction made possible by the help of a great deal of others. Physiotherapists are wonderfully helpful people. I trained in the North London School of Physiotherapy. I am a New Zealander. I went to England particularly to train as a blind person because that school had special facilities for training blind physiotherapists. We trained in classes of 6 or 8 where it was very much hands-on with some very expert teachers. Our anatomy, for example, was done by Professor Wall at the Middlesex School, a medical school, and the fourth year students would dissect bodies and we would be asked to, with hands-on, trace the origins and insertions of muscles and nerves and blood vessels and so on. And I guess our training was really pretty good because at the end, in 1963, when I qualified, I actually got the prize for the top student in the North London area. So that, I guess, was testimony to the kind of training that I had as a blind person. But there are two stories that really stand out in that training, which have really influenced my career and the way that I think about physiotherapy and rehabilitation. The first was 18 months into training on a paediatric run when we met Robert. Robert was born a thalidomide child without arms and flippers for legs, really, but he did have opposition for his thumb, and I guess that was why we came into this particular session, because the OTs and physios had actually taught Robert that day to be able to use a spoon, and he was able to feed himself, and he showed us this. He was a delightful chap, as many of these thalidomide people are. Wonderful personality, and he was so pleased with himself. But when Robert and his parents left the room, the wise professor of paediatrics said, "That's great, that's wonderful, we have achieved a great deal, but do you know what? This child will never be able to go into a restaurant like you and I, because not because he can't feed himself, but simply because we won't let him. We won't let him because of our prying gazes and our inquisitiveness." And that taught me a whole lot. I walked away from that thinking, that is really something. Then there was Mrs. P. I think it was about 9 months into our training. We were on the wards, yes, very early on the wards with clinical training in North London, hands-on, and it was our job to give Mrs. P passive movements. She was deeply unconscious. 3 months she had been unconscious as a result of a neurological condition. And as we worked with this lady, I think it was the general agreement amongst us students that it would be only fair should she die, that why are these people keeping this lady alive in order that she just lies there being absolutely passive and not able to do anything. A year later, Mrs. P walked into the department with cakes and said, "Thank you for looking after me." And that taught me that you never give up. And that was a huge lesson about the power of medicine, the power of recovery, the power of the human spirit to recover. I married my favourite physiotherapist student, and we came back to New Zealand. I worked for the Auckland Hospital Board. There were some wonderful people in the board at that time, and actually wonderful physiotherapists around New Zealand. Penn Simmers, Betty Peacock, Robbie Robinson, Sheila Glendinning. Dorothy Gordon was in Wellington. June Gardner edited the New Zealand Physiotherapy Journal very expertly at that time. Joan Durbridge and Margaret Draper in Christchurch, and Billy McLeod heading Dunedin. And in the private sector there was Len Ring, and Len Ring was one of the first physiotherapists to go to England to train as an ergonomist at Loughborough. A great guy was Len Ring, who contributed greatly to physiotherapy and subsequently ergonomics, and of course who starred on television with adverts, ACC lifting adverts and so on. Brian Mulligan, Rob McKenzie, and of course Dr. Stan Paris, who gained one of the first PhDs by a New Zealand physiotherapist. Ian Sim, an unsung hero in New Zealand physiotherapy. Ace Neem and Ian Searle, great people. So I had the privilege of serving with these people as an apprentice in a sense, and I guess my education is due to people like that, and many, many others, I do have to say. These were the golden era when, of course, we were able to bring to New Zealand great people like James Syriacs, Freddie Carlton-Bourne, Jeff Maitland, and I often acted as model for these people on manipulative therapy courses. And so in a sense, I experienced the hands of the great, which also taught me a great deal.